Attention is in short supply these days, yet it is important to executive function, doing well in school, and overall life success. Hi, I'm Jeff Coleman, and this is Attention, ladies and gentlemen, a show for teachers and parents who want to learn more about attention and what we can do to help our children be more successful in school and life. So if I could have your attention, we will get started. Hey, before we get started today, I wanted to tell you about a fun way to train attention skills from our show's sponsor, Brainly. Where you look and where you are planning to look is where you are placing your attention. The Attention Arcade leverages this connection to train attention skills with specially designed video games that children control using only their eyes. You can learn more by going to attentionarcade.com. Welcome to Attention, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm excited to get to talk with Debbie McNulty, who is a pediatric occupational therapist, and she works with a lot of children who have attention issues. So welcome to Attention, ladies and gentlemen, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I'm excited to be here.
So let's start with how you got interested in the work that you do and, kind of got into helping kids. What prompted that, and, what was your path there?
Sure. So the way I got interested in occupational therapy was back when I was a senior in high school. I actually had a neck injury falling off a trampoline.
Ooh.
And the rehab and surgery required physical therapy and occupational therapy. So that was kind of my first introduction to occupational therapy. And so just for the listeners who aren't aware of occupational therapy, I thought I'd just explain a bit about what we call OT for short. But yeah, OTs work on, they really focus on improving their clients' ability to perform their daily activities. And so this can be everything from getting dressed in the morning to eating to for a student to just being able to sit and attend and perform in school. So we really have a wide variety of skills that we work on from, waking up in the morning all the way up until going to bed. So again, just during my my rehab process, I got a chance to really get to know what OT was, and that prompted me to, want to go into that profession myself.
I don't know if you'd call that a fortuitous event, but it's good that you found what you wanted to do out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you decided to work in pediatric occupational therapy?
Yeah, exactly. I did. I've always enjoyed working with children, and I knew that that is what I wanted to do. So, I first, after I graduated with my degree at USC, I went straight into working into school-based occupational therapy. And from there is where I got started and really got a chance to work with a very wide range of children everywhere from the preschool age all the way up to high school.
Oh, wow. Okay. And, this is Attention, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about, attention issues in particular. But what are your thoughts around attention? How would you define it? What do you see, that you would call attention in kids? Because it's a pretty broad concept.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would define attention as just the ability to focus on the task at hand and to be able to filter it and ignore all the external stimuli going on. So, in a classroom situation, a child is required to sit usually and attend to a teacher teaching.
Yeah.
However, there's a lot going on, and could be a lot going on in the background. Everything from the hum of an air conditioner in the background to a teacher who loves to decorate her classroom with a ton of art projects and things hanging up all around, even to a child sitting next to them a little too close that may cause them to focus on that child, the light touch of another kid. So there's just so much different sensory stimuli going on that in order to attend in a classroom situation, kids really need to learn to filter out all the different sensory stimulation going on.
Yeah, that's very true. And we're not aware of how much is really coming at us, if we don't have attention issues, because our brains are designed for that. I talked with a neuroscientist early on who was kind of describing that, our environment is just full of stimuli, no matter what we're doing, and that it's being able to decide what to focus on, that whether consciously or unconsciously, that really defines attention. And that's exactly what I'm hearing from you. Like, that's what a kid's really, that's what they have to deal with. But that's also where I expect they see some struggle, any kids who have attention issues. Could you tell us some of what you see in different kids?
Oh, sure. Yes, absolutely. So if we're looking in a preschool situation, those kids at that age, they're required just to be able to sit in a circle time situation where there's usually about 10 or 12 kids. And for some of these kids, it's their very first time having to sit for up to 10, 15 minutes, and even having other kids right next to them. So This is usually the first time that teachers or parents might even notice, hey, my kid, has an attention problem, because it may have never manifested itself before they're actually in that situation. So that's a time when we're getting some calls from parents saying, can you take a look at my child, or is this normal? Is this not? And a lot of it is really typical. But sometimes there's just some really strong sensory, challenges that some kids really have struggle with, just being able to sit still. And so that's kind of where we as OTs come in, trying to look at the environmental demands and the child's needs to see if we can provide some sensory strategies. It could be something simple as fidget toys to a little cushion where the child can move around a little bit, and even just educating the teacher and staff to provide movement breaks and that sort of thing.
Okay. And in older kids, what do you see, like in a second, third grader? What are some of the challenges you see regularly in them?
Yeah, so as they get older, the demands really increase. So sure. The teachers just have higher expectations for some kids, or for their whole class to be able to sit through, say, an entire 30-minute to an hour lesson. And for some of the kids we work with, just being able to focus for that length of time is a true challenge. And often some of the attentional issues come across as behavioral issues. So you might see some of these kids acting out, getting up out of their seats, touching other kids, just being very distracted. So a teacher may assume this is maybe a behavioral child looking for attention, or, when in reality, it could really be a child who's really having trouble regulating their body to be able to focus for that length of time.
Right. Okay. So this would be 7, 8-year-olds that would be dealing with this. What kind of strategies have you found really can help those kids that are struggling?
Yeah, well, let's see. In a classroom type setting, if they're in a regular educational type classroom, we really don't want these kids to stand out. And at that age, they're really self-conscious and know when they're getting special, treatment or. So we really try to be all inclusive, and that is the main goal. So an OT would ideally like to teach or educate the teacher on how they can do activities with the entire class. Because usually it's something that the entire class can benefit from. So it could be something simple, such as, every 20 minutes, the teacher has the entire class get up and do some sort of movement activity.
Oh, okay.
Some teachers really like yoga and do a few yoga poses. Other teachers like to do, a quick little song and dance just to get the kids all up and moving.
Yeah, that sounds good for all the kids. I mean, that's not
yes,
not a bad thing for any of them. So
absolutely, all the kids love it, and everyone benefits from it. These movement breaks.
Okay.
But teachers really have gotten a lot more, inclusive and flexible with different seating too. So now in some classrooms, you may not see the traditional, desks all lined up with traditional chairs, but if you walk into some more, modern type classrooms, you may see some kids sitting in a bean bag and another kid sitting on a yoga ball, and some kids sitting like what we call a T stool, which allows for some movement. Some kids may even be standing, at a counter, and some kids just prefer standing in front of sitting, or you might see some kids even sitting on the floor. So it's pretty cool to see how flexible teachers are really becoming and really trying to find, helping each child succeed in different types of learning environment.
Right. Yeah, that's certainly different than when I was in the classroom
Exactly.
a very long time ago.
Exactly.
So, I mean, just being able to sit in a different seat or maybe move around a little more, that can really help a lot of kids that are struggling with attention in the classroom.
Yeah, that is definitely one strategy. There's different parts of our brain that require or that we stimulate to help foster focus or attention or just self-regulation. And one of those sensory systems is proprioception, which is just a fancy word of saying physical movement or physical, just any type of physical activity that our muscles and joints receive. So that type of input is usually, it could be calming yet alerting. And this really works across the board. It could be, it works for you and I as adults too. I personally usually start my day with some sort of exercise or run, and that really helps alert me and get me ready for my day. I don't know if you have any sensory strategies that you do in order to kind of help you focus before you sit down and do your work for the day.
Actually, I did an episode just last week around meditation, because I've been doing it for 3 years now, and it has totally changed my morning and my day in terms of how I approach things and where I can focus and what I can ignore, because I think that that's so important. Not a great activity for kids who already have struggles with attention, but I actually think it's great for parents and teachers who are trying to let go of some things so that they can really be present. And so I think that's an important part. And I like to take a midday walk with my dog because that gets me, after I've eaten, gets me back into a state where I can sit down and really focus. Right.
Okay. Yeah, those are both great strategies that you use. And I love your meditation too. I listened to your podcast too. And I was thinking how that really is sensory related too, because I'm sure you have to put yourself in the right environment to focus. Maybe you sit in a certain comfy chair, or you have some sort of music in the background, or so I'm sure you have to find your sensory place that can allow you to focus for meditation.
Yeah, definitely. It's not good when the dogs are doing tug of war next to my chair, which I've had them do before. But it definitely is good to be in the right place, and I have a favorite chair that I sit in when I do it and everything. So
Oh, that's great. So, yeah, that's kind of how we as adults can try to relate to children too. Like, we realize that we all have sensory strategies that we do on a daily basis to put us in that just right level
Yeah.
for learning. I kind of asked a few friends around because I wanted to ask what other adults do. And I've kind of heard everything from, drinking coffee to, requiring some sort of music in the background. I know nowadays you see a lot of adults, even just with one AirPod in their ear. Because sometimes some people just need that background noise to kind of filter out or help them focus. Some people, I know myself, I chew gum a lot. Like if I'm going to be sitting at a computer for a while, I need some sort of oral strategy like chewing gum or, eating something salty or even drinking like sparkling water is alerting.
Okay.
So these type of strategies also work for kids too. So it's important to kind of find out what is, what they can do in the classroom without being disruptive.
Yeah, sparkling water probably not going to work as well in the classroom.
Probably not. Yep.
Some other things. So you test these different strategies with kids, the ones that are appropriate for the classroom, and see which ones help them. Is that kind of how you approach it?
Exactly. So we use a term called a sensory diet, which is basically just a program of various sensory activities that we give to the child throughout the day. So a lot of it is just exploring different strategies that they can use, even at home before they go to school. So it's kind of like some kids require jumping on the trampoline as soon as they wake up. Like they can't even think about getting dressed or doing anything until they get some heavy proprioceptive input to their body. And the sensory diet is just activities scheduled throughout their day and all the way until they go to bed. So it might be more alerting activities in the morning. And then towards the end of the day, they might be more calming activities with, deep pressure. I have one child right now who has a swing like a body sock swing in his house. Not that everyone is going to have that, but
right.
He goes into that swing as a way just to calm himself down, and that deep pressure is very relaxing to him. So it's really trying to find what strategies work for each individual child. And it's really so unique. Every kid is so different, and what works maybe one day to help the child is not necessarily going to work the next day. But but having a variety or a toolbox of activities for the teacher and for the parent at home with the goal of the child being able to kind of start learning what he or she needs in order to attend on their own without necessarily giving it to them, but for them to have that feedback to know what their body needs to attend.
So they can start to figure it out themselves and better self-regulation, I guess, at the end of it.
Exactly. Okay. So we also try to give them that language too. And that's also important too, to kind of make it fun and engaging to them. So it's sometimes hard for a child to, if the teacher says, pay attention, or, Johnny, it's time to focus and pay attention. Well, a child may not necessarily know what that means or how to do that. That's
really hard to explain.
It is. It really is.
What is focus? Like to tell someone who has trouble focusing. I've addressed this before, and it's really hard to explain it to someone.
It really is. And, as a parent, a teacher, or anyone who works with children, it is such a vague concept.
Yep.
And so that is another area as OTs and just any professionals working with children, it's really important to give children that language so that they can understand where their body is at.
My son, when he was in kindergarten, she was a master teacher. She'd been doing it for 30 years. And one of the things I remember him saying, she used to send him to the office with a note. And we found out later the note said this kid needed to get out of class and move. Was all it said to the people in the office. Because at that kindergarten, it was all the way through the school. And, but it's just being aware of that and being able to help a child get their energy out sometimes is what's required.
I love that for the teacher that recognized that and actually, didn't really necessarily try to call him out on it, but that's something else
we tell teachers. Actually.
Exactly.
He got to do something. He got to go to the office where not in trouble, but to deliver something. So yeah.
And sometimes that really is all that's all it takes is just, getting up and moving, and then they have that movement to come back and center themselves again.
Yeah, definitely. Well, these have been some great strategies, Debbie. I really appreciate it. Are there other strategies you'd like to share with parents or educators that that they might be able to do at home or in their classroom?
Sure. Yeah. Going back to, what I was talking about with using the language to give children a language, I do think that is really important to give children a way to say that their bodies are, feeling mates. Often we use the word engine, like every child has an engine inside of them. So sometimes the child might be able to say, my engine's in high gear, or where I'm feeling, antsy and, can't sit still and I can't focus. And then on the opposite end, we can, have them use the word, my engine's in low gear and I'm tired and I'm bored and I can't focus and I don't, So it's important to know that there's two ends of that spectrum, and for a child to focus and to learn, we want them to be, in their engine in that green zone where they're feeling good, they're not, their body is ready to go. So that's really important. But as far as giving teachers more strategies, I think, again, like we talked about, the flexible seating is really important. Also giving, kids the flexibility of having some movement breaks throughout the day. And like you said, recognizing when a child, their engine is in high gear, maybe have that child, like you said, run an errand for them, carry some books to the class next door, just being aware of children and knowing that, they're not trying to be naughty. It's really trying their way of saying, I need some sensory input. I need a fidget toy or that sort of thing.
Yeah, because a classroom setting is not natural. Like for kids, most kids don't get identified with attention issues just playing in the yard. It's when we ask them to sit still and focus on it, an adult talking in the front of the room kind of thing that
absolutely
it is not what they would naturally be doing if we didn't have these structures as society. Obviously it's important, but So,
and I know a lot of parents notice it for the first time when their kids were at home, taking classes over Zoom. A lot of parents did not realize, whoa, you really can't sit still for that long. And so a lot of kids did have struggle, and you would see parents even learning strategies. Oh, my child needs to, have some oral strategies like, have a water bottle close by, or, a lot of kids got used to eating over Zoom because that was their strategy, or they could get up and take breaks. So then coming back to the classroom, again, was difficult because they were not necessarily allowed to, eat or drink or get up and move around. But I have seen a lot of teachers actually be really a lot more flexible with eating chewing gum in the classroom, given a lot of rules before that. But just being a little more flexible to different types of strategies that can really help kids focus and pay attention.
Great. Well, thank you for those. How are you working with kids now? Is it still in a school, or is it a private practice, or?
Yeah, I work with kind of a wide variety of ages. So I work with kids in the homes, young children before they get to school. Even school-age kids. Some kids are homeschooled that I work with.
Right.
And I also see kids, in their school, as well as I'll even sometimes see them, in the community, in a park, or in a clinic type setting too. So it's a pretty wide range that I get to see kids in different type of settings.
Well, Debbie, thank you so much for your time and for sharing these great strategies. I'm sure both parents and educators have gotten some good stuff out of this, and can kind of, think about and see some new strategies they can use with kids who are struggling.
Yes, well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to advocate for our children and to and just to provide some more different types of information that everyone can, consider for their kids. So thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks for giving me your attention for another show. We hope you learned something that you can apply right away. If you enjoyed the show, please rate us wherever you listen to your podcasts so that other people can more easily find the podcast. And remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.